Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm so excited and delighted to be joined by Selina Albright. She is so phenomenal in her music. There's so much passion and so much caring, and it's also so relatable. And I just really enjoy being able to listen to it. And I'm so delighted to have you with us. Welcome, Selina.
Thank you so much. That's an awesome introduction.
No,
that's cool.
absolutely.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and talking about introductions, I love to kind of roll time back and kind of start at the beginning, at least with music. We're going to let you introduce sort of some of your inspirations and also your connections to it. The name says everything, but it just is always interesting to us how you really started to develop your own interest in music and really said, these are some of the people that inspire me.
I am inspired by Ella Fitzgerald. I couldn't get through this list without saying my dad. Some people say my voice sounds like the vocal version of his saxophone. So I'm like, that's a great compliment because he does a lot on his saxophone. He's got a lot of skills. He's the GOAT. But Ella Fitzgerald as a vocalist, I love Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Beyonce, Amel Larrieux. There's so many people. Sarah Vaughan, Dinah Washington, sassiness from her. I think the sass came from her and from Etta James too. But I listen to a lot of traditional jazz and a lot of singers who come from that first bit of jazz, the traditional side of things.
As you had stated, we did have a chance to talk to your dad, Gerald Albright. I appreciate your modesty. And one of the things that we actually talked about you a little bit, was just your own sense of independence, finding your own sound, finding your own voice, and doing your own writing. I know that a lot of your own experiences shape the music that you create. Just talk to us, though, about that process of really sort of getting into it, because there's some shoes to fill, but there's also just finding your sound and then finding your voice, regardless of family royalty.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I never felt the pressure to fill my dad's shoes or have to go into jazz or have to go into any certain genre. I ended up doing a lot in jazz because that's just what I was exposed to. But I transcribed, I like to geek out on music. So I transcribe a lot, from trumpet to saxophone. Like I've memorized all my dad's solos from when I was a kid because I used to listen to him play them over and over again, listen to different mixes. And so I started branching out to other instruments and then vocalists. And especially in the case of Ella Fitzgerald, I know a lot of her scats from this one particular album that I used to play over and over again and still do sometimes. So I think, vocally and just finding my voice, it came from me just repetitively doing things over and over again. There's probably a disorder that's attached to it because it was like crazy amounts of listening to things over and over again and memorizing them and transcribing them.
Sure.
That hours, days, my brother was like, Selina, please stop singing. Because I would just be in my room.
Yeah, I want to tease that out because that's not something you hear very often, especially for people that may not be arrangers or composers. Just tell us how you kind of got into transcribing and writing for these different parts, because that's not something that's intuitive for most people.
It's just fun for me. So I love to learn. Education is like super important to me. And there are patterns in the music that match the math and the science that I was studying. And so if I see a pattern that matches another pattern, I geek out immediately. And I start, seeing ways that things are related. And then I want to memorize it. And then I want to relate it to something else. And so I have like a musical skeleton and I just keep building on it. Maybe that is kind of a weird thing to do, but it's fun for me. It's like a puzzle and I do too. But from a writing standpoint and a production standpoint, I actually listen to certain genres specifically for certain things. So for rock, especially, oh my God, Metallica and even System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine and Korn, like you can hear how their arrangements and their production is closely related to classical in a lot of ways. So like I try to find similarities between the two genres, and it just as an exercise for myself. But nobody told me, Selena, you need to do this homework assignment. And figure out the difference between these two, compare and contrast. It's just so interesting to me. And so I just delved into it naturally. And it's helped me as a composer and a producer and a writer to make things that are kind of different, use odd meters, whenever I can throw them in.
Sure.
And so it keeps things interesting, keeps me from writing the same things and getting bored with music. I feel like everything I do is there's something experimental in there.
Right. No, I love that. And I want to use, since you brought up Ella and scat, and not to necessarily put you on the spot, but, and you don't necessarily have to do it. That's not where I'm going. Where I wanted to take you was just maybe even vocalizing, like explaining to us sort of how that works, because a lot of people I really didn't think we'd talk a bit about Ella, but since you brought her up, and then you brought up this concept of transcribing, I think that she's a great artist to use illustratively, because she does that. And many people may just think that scat is just kind of somewhat of an improv, or just sort of a winging it. And it's not. So even if words are fine, because I don't expect you to try to whip out one of her songs on top of your head, but just teasing out, so this concept of hearing patterns and picking up different similarities in some of the math equations, because there's a tremendous element of that in scat. And like I said, many people may just somewhat think of it as just somebody's just somewhat ad-libbing and improvising. And it's a little bit deeper than that.
I think there are things, if you listen to an instrument long enough, that you'll pick up and you'll start to just do that within your scat. But there's a song she has called Lemon Drop. It's one of my favorites. And I think she was doing a saxophone when she did it, because it's got a little swing beat. 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh my God. Like when I heard, that's how she starts the song. She doesn't even make it there. She just starts out the song. And it's faster. It's like, it's faster, but I did it slower so you can hear like what the saxophone, if that's what she's doing, is doing. You can easily connect what Ella does to the piano, the trumpet. She's freaking amazing. And then if you give her a ballad, she sounds like a violin or a cello. And that's why I love her. She has so many dimensions to her voice and so many tones.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that you love and admire her. And I honestly only came to know her through my mom, and was simply amazed, and really then started studying and trying to understand this whole art form or music form a lot more, because it's not something seen, as commonly in some genres versus others. So no, I thank you for that. About an early sound or an early song that you have that kind of inspired you, and you felt like, gosh, this is really something that helps bring a lot of what I'm trying to create to life. What might a song like that be? And then we'll take a listen.
Well, the first song that I released as a solo artist was called You and I, and it was a collaboration between me and my dad. He wrote the track, and at first he gave it to me in its rawest state, and I was like, Dad, you got to give me more than that, because I was just beginning to write. I couldn't really flesh out by myself yet. So he gave me the groove, and I was like, okay, I can hear it. I'm loving the groove. I don't know where this is going. Can you give me form? So he sent it to a producer named Tracy Carter, who did keys, all kinds of stuff on it. And when I tell you, this song is so much fun, and I believe Rick Watford was the one who did the guitar on it. So much fun. And drums by Jay Williams, who's like very thoughtful about how he uses his sticks. He's amazing, an amazing drummer. And once they brought back, kind of a demo that was a little more fleshed out, I was like, okay, I got it. And I wrote this song in probably about 30 minutes to an hour. It was really quick because I was just so inspired. And it's about a couple who's lost their connection emotionally. So things are kind of not happening in the bedroom either. I wasn't married when I wrote this. I wrote it about someone else.
No self-divergence, totally understandable.
I mean, I couldn't have had that situation at the time. I don't even know where that song came from, except that my friend told me what she had gone through.
Sure.
And what she was going through. And I don't know how to give you advice because I'm not married. Y'all figure it out. And then I wrote the song and I never told her that it was about her.
Right. Awesome. Let's take a listen to You and I.
A book with late night TV. It's a new bedtime routine. But I want you. What happened to us, baby? I wanna be close to you. You and I used to get so sentimental. By and by, we become so temperamental. I know it's accidental. We used to be so gentle. Tell me why we haven't made love since July. Where did this come from? I don't know how we ever got here. Just 6 months ago, I'd be swaying from a chandelier. Now suddenly I look at you, and your heart's as far as Timbuktu. For a renewal, baby. I wanna be close to you. Woo! You and I, yeah. We used to get so sentimental, yeah. I know it's accidental. See, we used to be so gentle. Tell me why we haven't made since July. Oh, you and I, yeah. We used to get so sentimental. By and by, yeah. I know it's accidental. We used to be so gentle, baby. Yeah, we haven't made love since July. To feel the passion.
Simply amazing. The show is called Music and Medicine, and we were talking a little bit about sort of what that means in this case to you, because I think it can have so many meanings. But what would that be? How would you feel that you could best describe music and medicine, music as medicine?
Medicine is such a broad term, and so is music. But for me, because I'm a vocalist, my whole body is my instrument. So I like to make sure I take a holistic approach in my health. That's mentally, spiritually, physically, all that stuff. So I'm very careful about what I eat. In fact, I can't go to a lot of restaurants because I already know Red Robin's going to make me sick. Can't go to Applebee's.
Right.
I got to know that something is farm to table or something because, your gut health
Right.
really, the vocal cords also really affects your mental function. So if I'm in the wrong mood before a show or before I go into the studio and I can't focus, that greatly affects the breadth of what I can do. I always want to come with a game every time. I like living in an optimal way with optimal energy. So mixing music and medicine is completely natural for me. Completely. Because I have to. It's not like I can be sick and blow through a horn and everything's okay because the horn is all right. I can't repair my vocal cords and just reach in there. So I have to keep everything healthy,
Sure. No, I love it. And I know you and I were talking a little bit as we were getting going about some of the symptoms you had during pregnancy, hands having some swelling and some tendonitis. Just sort of tell us sort of what that was like and what you learned was going on.
I don't know what happened during my first pregnancy, but everything just got really swollen. I was holding water in weird places. So I happened to hold it in the base of my thumbs. So I had tenosynovitis. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to hold my son after he came out because it was just hard. My thumbs the same cold. And because that tendon was so inflamed, I had to go to physical therapy twice a week. And they were put a needle in there. I'm like, no, I'll just do the exercises. Please, no needles.
Right. I don't
Yeah.
blame you.
And there was no guarantee that it was actually going to give me the exercises. So, there were issues with my ankles. My hips felt like it was like you're driving a jalopy and everything is just rickety and falling apart. This pregnancy is different because I ate differently during this one. And I drank a lot more water. I don't have any inflammation. I can actually see the tendon that connects my thumb to my wrist. I'm like, thank God. So I haven't had to go anywhere this pregnancy. Please, Jesus, let that continue to be true because I'm going in the 3rd trimester. But yeah, that is really important to me. I like early detection. I like to catch stuff early. I'm not afraid to go to the doctor. I love going to the dentist. I'll go every 6 months on the dot because I want to make sure I know my blood, my teeth, everything.
Sure. Well, you heard it here from Selina Albright. Don't put up till tomorrow what you can do today. The weather is shining. We're at a good time of the year, and it's a great time to get checkups and, like you said, sort of do some of that preventive maintenance that many times can get delayed, be it winter or be it COVID. It's time to get out and get checked up. So I appreciate that. Take us to another song that you love and it means a lot to you and holds a special place in your heart.
The second one I want to choose, and I was going to choose Holding On, but I might be switching. Nope, I'm not going to switch. I'm going to stay the course. So the next song I want to listen is Holding On. And this was right after George Floyd videos started going viral. And I wrote this song because I was on maternity leave. And I couldn't march with everybody because, I had a C-section. And so I'm at home with the baby breastfeeding and healing, and this happens. Right. So I couldn't march in person. So this song was my way of bringing attention to the fact that we need way justice. And we need to strongly act against, fervently act against the injustices, the discrimination, the fact that there are laws that still haven't changed. Like just last week, was it? The anti-lynching law just came out. I know that lynching had happened more recently than people would want to think. Right. But it's amazing that this stuff is still happening. Right. And the world responded. So, for me, I was like, oh my God, finally, this is our chance. We can finally make some change. And some things have happened. We need to see more. So this song is my way of being a part of protest. Sure.
Well, certainly appropriate. Gone through a lot with the pandemic and being in, but just there seems to be so much stress, maybe too much information coming at people and so much going on that it can be really hard for people to cope and or recover. Why does it sort of touch you so?
For me, mental health is part of physical health. And it's been separated for so long, and there's been a stigma, against mental health. Like if you go to a shrink, and they call them shrinks. If you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist, something's wrong. And it's like, well, we all have things that are wrong. What about prevention? And because I like early detection, prevention is important to me. So I go to therapy maybe every 1 or 2 weeks, depending on my tour schedule. Right. And we'll sit there for an hour, and therapists are the best because it's like a close friendship that's private, that it doesn't have to be reciprocal. It can just be all about you and what you want to dump on that person, and then we'll help you with your problems, and you don't have to give back because you're paying them. And for me, I think before every big event that is coming up, you prepare for it in therapy. So you have the right mindset going into it. Because my life, because I'm so driven, there's always a transition happening. There's always something that's big, whether the baby's coming, whether, we're moving out of state, which we've done twice in the past 5 years, which is a lot. Whether new music is coming out, or I'm going on tour a lot and we need to make sure home base is taken care of. Whether, marriage needs tweaking. So you go into it with some insight, and then after you go through it, then you unpack. And I think people have been ill-prepared and then repressing all the stuff, the feelings and all the ick from everything that they felt. And we're overwhelmed. It's a lot coming. There's a lot coming at us. It's a lot just to live now because everything is on the internet and we're addicted to it.
Right.
You need to have a person to help you to remember. You've got to do your 10-minute meditations. Do some mindfulness activities. Sit there and just breathe for a second because you got to boys to function. So for her, he thing for a long time and just didn't have the resources. And now there's so many resources out there to be able to do it. And I'm glad it's more widespread because I see people getting healed, operating on a higher level, using more. It's just great to see people shining and soaring without the drawback of going home and being a miserable person, just a miserable human being. Right, to themselves and to others. And I think if everybody had access to, even just once a month, if you could just unpack once a month, you had 1 hour out of the month to just unpack what happened that month, that would even help.
Sure. No, well, I so love that you feel comfortable sharing, because when you discuss it, not only is it relatable, but I love the way you frame that. Preventative maintenance, it really gives you a foundation to go through these transitions, which we all go through: a new job, a new career, a new relationship. It's just constant. Kids growing up, kids coming in, moving out, parents aging, things of this nature are a constant flux, not to mention all the things that we're exposed to in our world and in the world. So that's so beautiful. And despite all that you have going on, I know you're getting ready to go back on tour. So give us a plug for where we can find you, literally and virtually.
Okay, well, I'm ending tour because of maternity leave, because the baby's due in June, and I don't want to be on a plane during my 3rd trimester. It's very uncomfortable for me. And those bags are way too small. So I will be on hiatus for a second. However, this coming week, I'll be going on the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's my final hurrah for this free tour, which comes from a song I wrote called Jenny, Perfect Little Rose. Either way, the 7th, I'll be in Atlanta at St. James Live. The 8th and the 9th, I get to do Berks Jazz Fest, which I haven't done for a few years, so I'm really excited to return. And we're going to do a celebration of jazz, and I get to sing on the same roster as Patty Austin, who I also love. And I'm like, and on the 10th, I get to do Charlotte, North Carolina at Middle C Jazz, which I've been waiting to do. It'll be my first appearance there, and I'm super excited. And then after that, you'll see me on social media. You'll see me at SelinaAlbright.com or at Selina Albright everywhere. So you can find me. I'll still be posting stuff, until I'm in the hospital. Then I'm going to be sleeping. And then after that, I'll come back and do a tour, probably in the fall, late fall, early winter is when I'll go back into it.
Sure. Well, if that's you slowing down, I don't know how I'm going to keep up with you when you're going full throttle. Take us out with something that you find appropriate and just it means a lot to you and you'd love to share it.
This final song is called Dishonest Smile. And it's all about, there was this moment, it was December 23rd, 2019. I was pregnant with my first one. And I was not in therapy at the time.
Okay.
Yes, I had just come off tour. And I remember it was the day after tour had ended, and my whole body just crashed. I was exhausted and emotionally, like there were so many hormones. I couldn't recover. I couldn't mask like I normally do to fit into, it was Christmas.
Yes.
Oh my God. So I knew Christmas Eve was coming up. I knew Christmas was coming up. I'm like, I don't have the mask I usually do when I'm feeling really crappy and I need to be around family and friends and gather with people, just anybody but my husband. And so I wrote this song on the bathroom floor. So it's really vulnerable. I've had plenty of therapy since then and figured out what was going on at the time. And I took on way too much. And so this song is about a typical woman's life, wearing tons of hats. She's a mother, she's a confidant, she's a family member, she's a career woman. She's organizing things. She's making everybody's appointments, and sometimes getting them there. And she's on overload. And so she finally had a quiet moment for her body to crash, and it did. And so I wrote from that place. And that's why this song is so special to me. And that's why mental health is so special, because people said, where your brain, if it's not working well and you're holding stuff, you'll keep getting sick. That's what happens. Your body will find the rest from somewhere.
We can't have too much of having support for what we're going through spiritually and mentally as we go through our physical journey. It all should go hand in hand. So thanks so much for sharing with us all you've gone through and some of the things that you use as a way to succeed and achieve, words to live by. Thanks so much.
Thank you.